in there. About 80% of the people living in the building were seniors.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's fabulous. Yeah, so in your career, you're blessed to have something like this happen,
and rightfully so. And to layer on what you said earlier is you probably built some relationships in the 25 years of working for the Katz family, creating relationships. And I've mentioned that before, that real estate is about a relationship. Real estate, in essence, is kind of boring. I mean, what does a piece of brick do? It doesn't talk to you. But it's the people behind it. So I think that a deal like this, more power to you for having a relationship.
I think everything's relationships. If you think about it, I mean, why aren't we teaching our children about relationships? You do business with people who trust you.
That's right.
You need to have transparency. You need to have, especially in the brokerage business. As you know, you're doing real estate deals all the time. There needs to be openness and transparency, and confidentiality when required.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's what's going to get a deal done. When you're trying to sell something this large, there are so many things that can go wrong. I'll tell you, for example, one of the things we did when my client decided to sell the building, I said the first thing you should do is do the phase 1 environmental yourself. Because if we find a problem, it's going to take forever. We found a problem. We started work on the problem before we listed the property. Said hire structural engineers to come and look at the building, and let's give that report to the buyer. Full disclosure. If there's something wrong, we want you to know. We don't want you to tie up this building, then find that there are problems later on.
Absolutely. So
right?
You were proactive.
Very proactive, yeah.
In the first section, we talked about a cap rate. Are you at liberty to say what the cap rate was on this when this sold?
Yeah, it was complex because there were 3 types of property, somewhere in the 6% cap range.
6% cap rate?
Somewhere in the 6% cap range. But again, it varied, right?
Yeah.
Because there were 3 different asset classes here. The shopping mall had, sort of a few anchor tenants and some local tenants, so the cap rates were quite different. But I think in and around the 6% range was probably what London was at that time.
And for some people, because we've talked about investing in syndicate mortgages, we've talked about structuring LPs. That's kind of low, but as you were saying, the demand, there's so much demand for this type of product. The cap rates have been driven down.
Yeah, but sometimes when something is too big, there's only a limited number of buyers.
On something like
this. Right?
So
how many guys can write a check for $250 million? Not that many.
Just out of curiosity, is that what it sold for?
It sold for $215 million.
$215
million, yeah. And so we identified 18 buyers across the country. They were all institutions. They were all pension funds. There were no moms and pops in this group.
Yeah.
Right? And we visited each one. This wasn't, hey, here's a fax saying this building's for sale.
Right.
We went across the country, visited every buyer, explained the scenario to them. We had a number of offers, for the building. And then really the seller had to choose the buyer.
Right.
That he felt, the most comfortable with, that would continue on and things like that. And some very interesting things happened, as we sold the building. For example, before the deal had closed, the developer took out a full page ad in the London Free Press thanking the city for being able to serve them for all these years.
That's the kind of people you're dealing with. These are class acts.
And the last is before they sold the building to the new owner, to Minto, they held a party in every lobby and invited all the tenants down to introduce them to the new owner. Really just a terrific transaction. I was blessed to be part of it.
Absolutely. And we hear a lot of the nightmare stories, or stories that landlords don't care, landlords are uncaring. The people that I know is exactly that. They are so into wanting to make their places worthwhile for everybody. And that kind of, what you're saying is proof in the pudding. That landlords are caring people. They want to have good buildings and things.